Arthur was finally heading home after a long school day when everything changed in a fraction of a second. As he proceeded through an intersection with a green light, another driver suddenly ran their red light before T-boning the Subaru hatchback next to him as well as his Tesla Model 3. The impact of the Toyota RAV4 was so strong it immobilized Arthur's Tesla. A bystander ran to help Arthur out of the car even before police arrived. Arthur told us he later found out the responsible driver had been under the influence of alcohol. He's still waiting to get his copy of the official report, but after seeing these photos, the insurance company told him his Tesla is probably totaled. His response likely won't surprise you. Time for a new Tesla. Our next submission proves just how dangerous black ice can be. Jeff was driving his Model 3 one evening when a Ford Fusion 2 vehicles ahead of him suddenly lost control. Jeff didn't realize he was driving on black ice until he tried and failed to slow down. Miraculously, he managed to thread the needle between the other vehicles until his car came to a stop in a ditch undamaged. $200 later, his Tesla was out of the ditch and Jeff was on his way home. Good save, Jeff. This subscriber was cruising down the travel lane of I-190 when his Model 3 was sideswiped by another driver trying to squeeze between vehicles. The other two vehicles lost control and smashed into the barrier before one rolled completely upside down. Thankfully, our subscriber was able to keep his Tesla under control. It sustained serious damage to the passenger side while both of the other vehicles involved were totaled. Freddie was headed north on Highway 99 in his Tesla Model X when he suddenly witnessed a semi-truck colliding with a box truck. When traffic in the exit lane began slowing down, the driver of the semi-truck tried to move to the travel lane, but without enough distance between his truck and the box truck, he smashed into it before he had the chance. The trucker then locked his brakes, sending his trailer sliding across Freddie's lane. The trailer clipped the front of the box truck again as it swung back toward the other lane. Thankfully, Freddie was able to slow down quickly enough to avoid being hit, and he was able to continue as the two truck drivers pulled over. Michael was driving his Model 3 in poor conditions as heavy rain covered the roads with water. Suddenly, another Model 3 lost control while overtaking him before spinning out and colliding with the trailer of a semi-truck. The other Tesla then started drifting back into Michael's lane, but he was able to hit the juice pedal to avoid being hit. Ari and her husband were on their way home in their Model S after meeting some friends. After noticing bright lights behind them, they suddenly heard tires screeching. When they looked back to see what was causing the noise, they saw a vehicle spinning out before smashing into the concrete barrier. When they reviewed their Teslacam footage at home, they noticed the SUV driver had been cutting off other vehicles and possibly trying to race another SUV when they lost control. Thankfully, the SUV didn't hit their Tesla, which was only a week old at the time. James was driving his Model 3 and was halfway through a 14-hour road trip from Alabama to Florida. During a period of inclement weather, James watched a vehicle in the passing lane lose control before spinning into the median barrier. As a longtime viewer of Wham Bam Teslacam, James knew right away that the car could ricochet back across the highway, so he slammed on his brakes just in case. Sure enough, the car veered across all three lanes, only stopping after hitting the barrier on the other side. James told us he'd noticed a lot of emergency vehicles helping motorists during the bad weather, so he chose not to stop. Andrew sent us this Teslacam footage that was captured by his mother's Tesla Model Y. She was waiting at a red light and on her way to get some lunch when she heard a loud crash on her left. She only saw the aftermath of what had happened, but Andrew reminded her that her Teslacam had captured everything. After reviewing the Teslacam footage, they went back to the same intersection and gave copies of it to the police. Andrew told us his mother loves her Tesla. He also wanted to shout out his sister Jasmine, who wants a Tesla of her own, and his son Derek, who watches every episode of Wham Bam Teslacam with him. If you watch every episode, we hope you'll subscribe. William was driving his Model Y in Denver when an Audi A6 suddenly slammed into another car, causing a chain reaction. After the Audi rear-ended a Ford Fusion, that car spun out and hit a Subaru. What a mess! Joe was taking his wife out for lunch on Labor Day in their Tesla Model S. As they approached an intersection, they noticed a police vehicle coming toward them in the distance. Joe told us he made sure he was obeying the speed limit. Suddenly, a red light runner sped into the intersection, T-boning their Tesla. The blue car slammed into their Model 3 at over 40 miles per hour, colliding with the passenger side. The impact spun their Tesla completely around, prompting it to automatically call 911. When Joe opened his door, he immediately spotted the police vehicle driving toward them, party lights already activated. Incredibly, neither Joe nor his wife were seriously injured, even though their car was totaled. The other driver only had the minimum required insurance coverage, so Joe used his own insurance policy to make up the difference to replace his Tesla. His insurance provider paid him a settlement equivalent to the value of the base 2025 Model 3, which ended up being several $1,000s more than he could have gotten for his 2020 Model 3. Nice! Ed was driving his Model Y on his way home from a Bible study when he suddenly noticed an oncoming vehicle overtaking another over a blind hill. Ed didn't want to wait and see what full self-driving would do, so he yanked the steering wheel to the right to avoid a collision. Thankfully, this ended up being nothing more than a scary close call, and everyone was able to continue. Isabella was waiting in traffic while driving her Model Y in Las Vegas when an oncoming Tesla was struck by a Toyota Camry as it cut through a gap in traffic. You know what we're going to say. Close the gap. If you have the right of way, leaving a gap for someone to cut through isn't courteous, it's dangerous. Ivan was on his way home from work when he made a right turn through a green light in his Model 3. Mid-turn, a white car waiting for a red light was rear-ended, causing a very close call with a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Let's replay that in slow motion and take a look at the pedestrian. If the collision had happened just a second earlier, well, let's just say that we wouldn't be showing you the Teslacam footage. Ivan wasn't able to stay, but he told us he sent a copy of his footage to the relevant authorities. This subscriber had his wife and 3 kids in his Model Y as they searched for their dog that had gone missing. As he stopped behind a Volkswagen Golf turning right, the driver of an SUV suddenly left his lane, sideswiping a BMW i3 before rear-ending our subscriber's 3-month-old Model Y long range, a replacement for his Model 3, which had also been rear-ended. His Model Y was shoved forward about 13 feet as automatic emergency braking activated to avoid rear-ending the VW ahead of it. Thankfully, our subscriber and his family were safe from injury, and their dog was later found by a friendly local. Here's hoping that's the last rear-end collision he experiences. Kevin's Tesla was waiting behind another driver on their way out of a parking lot, but the other driver got impatient, waiting to merge into traffic. Without warning, the other driver shifted his Mazda into reverse before backing into Kevin's Tesla. Kevin told us the Mazda driver was brand new and he was clearly doing his best to hold back tears. He also told us that, for whatever reason, Kevin will end up paying a $500 deductible. Lorden was on his way to church when he turned through a gap in traffic, and I bet you can guess what happened. Thankfully, nobody was seriously hurt in the collision. Lorden's son called the local emergency number, but the operator told him they didn't need to respond to a non-injury collision. Stewart's wife Deanna was on her way to Washington, D.C. one morning when their Tesla Model Y came to an abrupt and unexpected stop. Deanna didn't know what was going on until she noticed a black dog running in front of the Tesla. In spite of her repeated honking, it took about a minute for the dog to get out of her way. Thankfully, the driver behind her was paying attention and following with enough distance to avoid rear-ending her. She told Stewart that if she hadn't been using full self-driving, there's no way she would have seen the black dog in the darkness, and she probably would have hit it. Once again, FSD saves lives. This subscriber was driving his Tesla Model Y on his way to see a movie. As he continued in the left lane, a blue van suddenly left the right lane before colliding with his Tesla. Our subscriber told us he didn't see any turn signal or hand signal before the lane change, and his Teslacam footage confirms this to be the case. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Our subscriber told us he later found out the driver of the van had been intoxicated. When police arrived, they arrested the van driver. Repairing our subscriber's Model Y cost $7,000 US. Eddie was driving through East Brunswick in his Tesla Model Y when another driver suddenly proceeded past a stop sign. Thankfully, both drivers hit the brakes before colliding, but that's too close for comfort. Not even a Hot Wheels Tesla would fit in the space that was left. Jen was driving her Tesla Model Y in Raleigh when she suddenly noticed a pickup truck in the distance overtaking multiple vehicles. Even going downhill, the pickup was unable to accelerate enough to overtake all three vehicles by the time it reached Jen, and she was forced to slam on her brakes and swerve to avoid a head-on collision. This situation could have ended tragically. Please don't drive recklessly like this. We really don't want any of you ending up in our videos, and we don't want to lose any viewers either. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you back here next week.